Good. So I think we're good to go. The structure is gonna be that we're gonna do a short, um, let's say, lecture about the future startup ecosystems. A very interesting topic about what are the startup ecosystem of the future. What can we anticipate that are gonna be the dominant ecosystems? What do you need to become a strong ecosystem in about 10 years from now? So we're gonna give you our best estimation on that. And after that, of course, we're going to continue with all the pitches from the ecosystems around the world. Very interesting. It's going to be really fun to hear a little bit from mostly governments about what are the cutting edge policies that they're up to, and how do they actually what are the opportunities that they offer entrepreneurs when they think about relocating to those ecosystems. So it should be very fun. Hopefully, we will learn a few things, and feel free to keep on introducing yourself in the chat. If you have questions for me during this conversation, then please use the QA, and I will try to have a look frequently about on the Q&A model. So yeah, my name is Eli David. I'm the CEO of StartupBlink, and the topics that we'll discuss specifically in the lecture today, before we go on to those interesting pitches, are I'm going to tell you a little bit about StartupBlink. We're going to talk a little bit about the startup ecosystems of the present, and then we're going to talk about parameters for startup ecosystem success for the future. So a little bit about StartupBlink. It's a global, interactive global startup ecosystem map and a research base. It's open to the public. Everyone can use it. It's free to use. So feel free. In StartupBlink, you will also see rankings of those top 1,000 cities, the startup ecosystem of the top 1,000 cities, top 100 countries. So very important tool that is open for the general public. There is also a dashboard for every city and every country in the world. StartupBlink also has a network of more than 100 governments that are helping us with having accurate data on their startup ecosystem. You can, if you're a startup or you have a startup co-working space, accelerator or not, and so on, you can register on the map at startuplink.com/startups. So a little bit about our partners. So StartupLink is basically, our goal is to help ecosystem developers to analyze their startup ecosystem, build strategies, and do consulting on startup ecosystems, and also promote their startup ecosystem to the world. Promotion is incredibly important. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Some of our ecosystem partners include, as you can see here in the logos, Enterprise Singapore, with an amazing ecosystem in Singapore, Markham, a very innovative city in Ontario, Fukuoka, the Japanese city that is really excelling, Medellin, Axio from Barcelona, Taiwan, and so on and so on, are global data partners that allow us to get much of the data to build. The rankings include Crunchbase, Meetup, SEMrush, SAP, Statista, many others that are really helping us in this effort of ranking the startup ecosystems of the world. There is a report that is free for everyone to download. I'm going to ask one of our team members to put a link here to downloading the report at this link that you can see over here. So we'll put it in the chat for everyone. And yeah, if you have any questions and so on, because today we don't have a lot of time to take questions, feel free to send us an email to feedback@startuplink.com, and we'll definitely get on it and try to get back to you. A quick announcement before we start on the topic of today. We are now preparing the ranking of 2023. Those rankings are viewed by thousands of press mentions and are used by hundreds of thousands of people every year that are using StartupBlink. So first of all, if you have a startup, add your startup on the database. That would allow to boost your rank. And if you are a government agency, public sector ecosystem developer that is interested in reflecting your data correctly, send us an email to mahmoud@startuplink.com, you can see over here, and we'll be happy to do a data partnership with you as well. First of all, before we begin, this is a slide that we share very often. about why your location matters. And I think that this is unfortunately one of the things that a lot of us, regardless of what we do not dedicate enough time during our life to a very, very big life choice of the place that we live in. Because this place is going to have massive implications on our success and on our lives. It's not a coincidence that unicorns and successful self-funded startups, all of them are located in a relatively, most of them are located in relatively small amount of cities. And the reason is that those cities don't have people that are much smarter than other cities. It's just that those cities created the foundation of a strong ecosystem that whoever arrives there or lives there is enjoying a very, very interesting advantage of access to high quality co-founders, people that are looking just like you to build a startup, high quality team members, suppliers, investors, of course, are only located in a few locations. They have to make a bet on the locations that are most successful. High quality clients as well that are used to taking a bet on startups. Of course, you also have knowledge base, many meetups, many communities, a lot of motivation, because at the end of the day, the path of building a startup is a difficult path. And if you're in a place where you don't have a lot of people that are doing what you're doing, then you're very likely to succumb to peer pressure, family pressure, social pressure to get a 9-to-5 jobs. So those places would also, those cities would also allow you to be surrounded by like-minded people that are doing exactly what you do. For conclusion, if you're in an underperforming ecosystem, you should either leave it or lead it. So by meaning leave it, go to a better ecosystem, or lead it as in start to build those networks and to help people and to do those meetups and to become a mentor and to be menteed and to build communities, because staying passive on your own in a place that underperforms is probably not the best case. And try to also figure out if someone from your public sector is actually interested in your success. Many cities don't really have a public sector that is even active on startup ecosystem development. And that's why today's event is so interesting, because the people that are going to pitch here, mostly from governments, they care a lot about the startup ecosystem to arrive in the end of their day, middle of the day, beginning of the day, and try to tell you how great their ecosystem is. Many cities don't have this gift. Many cities are pretty much on their own. So that's why you have to choose a little bit carefully on this aspect. A little bit about the startup ecosystems of the present. As I mentioned, StartupBlink has a ranking of 1,000 cities. Over here, we're just going to maybe talk a little bit about the top 50. So as you can see over here, there is one dominant ecosystem, San Francisco. This is the place where dreams are made of. It has a very, very big gap from all other ecosystems. I will tell you something interesting about San Francisco. This gap keeps on being closed. In 2019, our ranking showed that San Francisco was 5 times better in total score than anyone else. 2020, it was 4 times. 2021, it was 3 times. In 2022, it was 2.5 times. The conclusion is that San Francisco is becoming slowly a more normal ecosystem, no longer the supernova that it used to be in the past, of basically really dominating the entire startup ecosystem. So our recommendation to all of you that love startup ecosystem is maybe go to San Francisco while it's still that massive and not yet just a leading ecosystem, but actually an amazing ecosystem, to maybe experience what they have before it's too late, because it shows that our ranking shows that every year they're diminishing in absolute power, but they're still the biggest, and honestly, probably no one will ever replace them, or if no one will reach this amount of dominance that San Francisco had, even if someone goes on top of them. Other than that, you can see over here, we'll talk about a few trends that we've seen from the top ones. Again, there are many interesting trends because there are 1,000 ecosystems, but we don't have a lot of time. So we talked a little bit about San Francisco. The top 5 cities in the world are 4 American cities and London. And that shows you, by the way, first of all, that those are great ecosystems. San Francisco, Boston, LA, New York, of course, which is positioned at number 2, and also London. It shows you basically that there is an unfair advantage to startup ecosystems that are innovating in English by native language. It's very helpful. Three of the top ecosystems in the top 10, let me go back to this, are actually domestic ecosystems that are mostly innovating nationally. This is Shanghai, Bangalore, and Beijing. The common ground between them is that all of them are innovating for a local population of more than 1 billion people that allows them to build a great, ecosystem, even though they focus only on the local market, which is pretty interesting. So it kind of tells you, yeah, you can do only national innovation level, but only if you have more than 1 billion people. If you don't have more than 1 billion people, go global. A little bit about who is centralized. This is an interesting one, and this is basically an analysis to figure out which ecosystems actually made it to create a few, which countries have made it to create a few ecosystems in a few cities. So out of the top 50 cities in the world, 18 of them are from the United States, showing you still that the United States is extremely dominant and by far the most successful country out there in terms of startups, because they simply started first, I guess. That's the main reason, but also because there is amazing innovation over there. 5 cities are from China. The Republic of China, the People's Republics of China really is, although closing from the world, managed to create a great amount of innovation. We've only seen Alibaba and TikTok, basically, but there is so much innovation going on in China, but it is domestic in nature. 3 of those cities are from India, which shows basically the promise of India. It's going to be the most populous country in the world this month, I think. It's going to become the most populous country. And 3 of those cities, Mumbai, Delhi, and Bangalore first, of course, are actually showing so much potential. Bangalore is even in the top 10. And there are a few countries that created 2 cities that are in the top 50, which is very difficult. Like, for example, United Kingdom, that is ranked number 2 in the world, didn't manage to do it. They only have London, and then everyone else is below. There are a few countries that managed to have 2 cities in the top 50. Germany is one of them, with Munich and Berlin. Canada, with Toronto and Vancouver. Spain, with Barcelona and Madrid. And Australia, with Sydney and Melbourne. So it's nice to see that there are a few countries where innovation is distributed and is very strong in a few hubs, and that's always fascinating to see. So when we try to think about the future ecosystems of the world, I think that one of the things that we're trying to figure out is to see which countries offer the best conditions currently, the best business conditions for startups. So what you see over here in the table is not the ranking of the countries. The ranking of the countries is totally different. This is the ranking only on the business environment of the countries. And we can assume that the countries that give the best conditions on the business level to startups are probably going to enjoy a little bit of the wind in their backs as they're running. So one of them is, of course, Sweden, ranked number 1 here on business rankings. Their global ranking, by the way, you can see over here, the global ranking is number 6. So they still have a gap to close, but they're doing really well. United Kingdom, it's second on business and also second on the global ranking. Norway is really, really good on business, actually not that good on actual startups, where they're ranked number 24, and so on. So you can see a few locations that are really overperforming in their business rankings compared to their actual startup rankings, which are lower. One counter example, for example, would be Israel. Israel is ranked number 3 in the world on startup output. It has the 3rd best startup ecosystem, but on the business ranking, it is number 23. So over here, a country like Israel has a lot of opportunity to improve its ecosystem if it improves its business conditions. And at the same time, if it doesn't, it's probably going to drop, because at some point, those 2 things are meeting, the actual performance and the business conditions as well. So that's the latest research that we've published. It's on our blog. If anyone is interested, just go to startupblink.com to the blog, and you'll see all the results of all of it. However, what we see really is that business conditions are important, but definitely not the main element of startup ecosystem success. The main element over here is going to be the mindset and the quality of our entrepreneurs. If we have entrepreneurs that are taking risks and that are going global, and that are extremely ambitious, that's much, much better even than government involvement. That's really the ingredient that is necessary. So the entrepreneurs of San Francisco, of Tel Aviv, of London, and so on are really there. So that's pretty interesting to see. Let me see if do we have any quick questions on the QA, if I can answer. And yeah, Lenison is asking what's the criteria of the index of the top cities. So in the report, and someone from our team is going to share the report again in the chat. Hopefully they shared it also before. There is a methodology section, but basically there are 40 different parameters that are running there. Quantity parameters like number of startups, co-working, accelerators, and so on. Quality, which means total amount of investment per ecosystem, number of unicorns, number of corporates, the total amount of R&D. There are many, many elements over there, so you can view it in the report. There are currently 40 elements that we're putting in the equation. And what you mentioned, basically, number of startups and the unicorns, both of them are there, the only in different categories, quantity, quality. So it's an interesting read. It's 400 pages. I warn you in advance. Okay, so let's talk about a few factors that are influencing the growth or the potential, the future potential of startup ecosystem. I'm going to talk about those 5, just introduce them, and then we'll go one by one. The first one is the flywheel of previous success stories. The second one is brain gain or brain drain. Third one is global focus. The fourth one is knowledge of English language. And the fifth one is startup heroes or startup manipulators. We'll explain later. Let's go one by one and kind of figure out what is basically the meaning over here. So the first one would be a flywheel of previous success stories. So the idea is that every city in a country has success stories that are absolutely critical for its growth. When you manage to have those success stories, the narrative of your startup ecosystem is changing. And once people believe or feel that they're in a successful place, very good things are happening. The success stories are not necessarily just unicorns, although unicorns is a great way of celebrating. Every country is celebrating its unicorns. But some of our cities, especially, are far away from achieving unicorns, or it's a very rare event. So in this case, the idea is to celebrate milestones. For example, if a startup did an exit of $10 million, don't be shy. We need to celebrate this record investment here, record investment in a startup that entered Y Combinator. Everything can be celebrated. So the idea is that those celebrations are basically changing perceptions and are really allowing us to change the narrative of our ecosystem, which is very important to keep people and also to attract talent from the outside. Good startup ecosystem should have entrepreneurs as role models, not necessarily our best athletes or soldiers and so on and so on. The real hero of future economies and current economies are entrepreneurs. And the question is, do we celebrate them or do we make their life harder? And we'll talk about this in another slide. Great success also attracts more talent. People are always attracted to successful places. There is a reason why so many people are going to San Francisco, especially if they're very ambitious. It attracts the startups, and it also attracts the investors. You can't persuade an investment to arrive to a place. They will be persuaded themselves when they keep on reading about another exit and another exit, let's say in Israel. And then they will come by themselves. You don't even need to persuade them. The investors have a lot of fear of missing out. When they hear of a specific cluster that is generating a lot of success stories, you can't even keep them from arriving. Of course, those success stories also establish a culture of innovation and of risk-taking. Let's say if someone is interested to do a startup in a place that in a small village, their family would probably be very anti the idea. But if someone is doing that in a place that has a lot of unicorns and so on, everyone would tell them, that's great, go for it, become our next millionaire of the family, and so on. So it only happens in those very unique places. And the success stories also increase the visibility and the credibility of our startup ecosystems. So that's why we should celebrate every success story and try to get as many success stories as possible. We'll talk a little bit about the brain gain versus the brain drain. The biggest tragedy of any economy, and honestly, any country, if you care about the concept of a country, is losing the talent. And many countries are currently losing their top talent to outside countries. And that's happening all across the world in developing countries and also in developed countries. For example, Israel has lost probably about 60 or 70 unicorns to other countries. Lithuania, Croatia, and so on have lost a lot of talented people, Greece as well. And of course, needless to say, the many ambitious people in Africa are now in other places because they know that in order to make it big, they have to be somewhere else. So the idea is that brain drain and brain gain is critical. For example, Lagos now in Africa is becoming a massive startup ecosystem hub. So people are even coming back to Nigeria in this case because they know that the big opportunity is there. So the idea is to create a situation that instead of losing talent, we're actually attracting talent from other places. We need to understand as ecosystem developers, why are people leaving? That's a very important question because once we understand why they're leaving, we can start dealing with the core problems of our startup ecosystem. And we also have to deal with how do we make more people arrive to our ecosystem. That's one of the reasons that you're going to hear the pitches here. The people that are going to be pitching are going to convince the top talent to also arrive to their startup ecosystem. Startup ecosystems are a zero-sum game. Basically, they're all struggling to get the same very important resource out there, which is basically talent. So that's the idea over here. And of course, we all have to focus on that. Another element of success is global focus. So an ecosystem can grow to an extent only by focusing on the national market, but this is only if you have more than 1 billion population. So the idea over here is to kind of figure out where you are. So if you have a big population, and that's namely probably more than 300 million, there are only a few countries in the world, probably the US, India, China, they could have been successful on their local market as well. The US is a champion of ecosystems because it innovates globally. China and India are innovating domestically, so they're ranked lower, but still can pull off a great startup ecosystem. There is something that we call the middle-sized market curse, which is basically countries that have more than 20 million, between 20 million to 200 million, that it's very confusing for the local entrepreneurs. Some of them are thinking maybe it's easier to innovate locally, nationally, and then they get stuck. The amazing entrepreneurs that are basically only catering their local market, and that's where we lose a lot of value. One of the funny things is that small countries are having an advantage that no one in a small country, let's say in Estonia or Finland or Israel and so on, no one will think about innovating for the local market. The fastest way to get in front of an investor meeting in Israel is to tell someone that you're building something for the Israeli market. So the idea over here is that the small countries from day one are going global. And that's very helpful for their startup ecosystems. And we see a lot of success stories from small countries as well. Knowledge of English, needless to say, the global startup ecosystem and also most regional startup ecosystems are built on English. Communication skills are what build global startups. The most important thing as a startup founder is to communicate well your message, especially when your company is just maybe a pipe dream in a way. So that's why that's so important. And yes, there is an unfair advantage for ecosystems that are native speakers of English. And some of the best ecosystems outside of the US and the UK and Canada are actually places like the Netherlands, Israel, Estonia, and so on, where people are talking really good English, that they do not struggle with English at all. And that's something that is very important. So we always recommend to our government clients to try to figure out how can we improve the level of English in our country. That's a long-term win that can be very substantial. And then the last one is basically manipulators versus startup heroes. Everyone wants to be a hero. Nobody wants to be considered as a manipulator. And in some countries, when you're successful, you'll be considered a manipulator. Usually that would happen in post-Soviet Union countries and countries with communist past and so on. The idea over here is that if you are considered as a manipulator, you would not stay in this ecosystem. You would go to America after doing an exit. And if we have a culture of a hero culture of celebrating our success stories and celebrating those entrepreneurs, those are exactly the entrepreneurs that are going to become serial entrepreneurs and are also going to become the investors in our startup ecosystem. The Israeli and Estonian ecosystems, for example, were built on early exits. But the nice thing is that those entrepreneurs who did the early exits invested and also created more startups that were even more successful and invested in a new generation of startups. If you're in a place where there is not a lot of trust and when everyone is a manipulator, then it's very likely that whoever has a fluke and an ambitious, talented person that has a fluke and a success story would run as fast as they can once they make a sort of a successful break, and we don't want to. We want to prevent it. A few examples of great startup ecosystem. San Francisco, we talked a lot before. It's a little bit diminishing, but it's at the top. We don't see anyone that can compete with it at this point. It will become more and more normal. But I don't think anyone can overthrow San Francisco in the next 10 years. I'll be incredibly surprised if this happens. We thought it would be Beijing, by the way, but then China became a little bit more inward facing and disconnected from the global ecosystem. So that's no longer in the cards, but it's definitely losing its advantage. But San Francisco is a great example about the first mover advantage. It was the first to move about 50 years ago, I think. And they're reaping the rewards now from being the first ones to develop technology and startup ecosystems when no one else thought about this. A good lesson for us all is to start as soon as possible, not to wait not even one day. Like if we have not started to seriously build our ecosystems until now, we must do it as soon as possible. As the saying goes, the best time to plant a tree was 30 years ago. The second best time is today. Other ecosystems of the future, a little bit about the EU. So no city is close to the top 5 except for outstanding London that is no longer part of the EU. Europe has massive, massive talent and a lot of potential. The question of why they have not managed to build incredibly global ecosystems is a good question with a lot of potential answers. But we do see a few interesting things that are happening there. Paris, for example, is moving forward relatively fast. Berlin is stable and strong generally. Stockholm is closing gaps with those top 2. And also other ecosystems like Barcelona are starting to move forward. There is a lot of regulation and bureaucracy in the EU generally, but those cities and countries that manage to find solutions to all those bureaucratic headaches are managing to move much faster. Bangalore is a very interesting ecosystem of growing economy, large population, English speaking, open to the world, with many, many unicorns and pantheons. We are believers that India has the potential, if it gets it right, to actually become the center of global innovation at some point, but it's going to take some time. Tel Aviv is a very nice example of a small, relatively small city in a relatively small country that is that managed to use the disadvantage of a difficult geopolitical situation to create massive innovation and to have a very, very global mindset with many unicorns, many pantheon companies, and many, many centers of innovation and research and development. A little bit, and that's maybe the last slide about some potential scenarios of startup ecosystem trends. We believe that cities are the new countries. There is a lot of decentralization. Every one of our cities has to fight for talent and has to fight for branding and has to fight for getting the resources to build our economies and make them startup economies. And there is some interesting elements as well of things that are happening with ecosystem being formed on the cloud. We have a few interesting companies, Telegram, for example, and so on. They don't really have an headquarters. Nobody really knows where they are, and they're not the only one. StartupBlink, by the way, is fully remote as well. So we have people. We have people from more than 10 countries working for us. So it's very interesting to see that you can sort of build great companies also on the cloud. However, a word of warning: the big win is actually to pick a place that will boost you. The world is still physical. It's still one-on-one and matters a lot. And we definitely recommend to think carefully about where you're at. Those are a few channels where you can follow us. LinkedIn, we have a Startup Ecosystem podcast. So if you find this topic very interesting, we have those conversations. on a weekly, almost bi-weekly basis on our podcast for startup ecosystem development, and on Twitter as well. You can follow us there as well. We're not that active, but we'll try. Anyway, it was a pleasure to do this conversation with you, and now we're up to the really interesting part of today, the startup ecosystem pitches. I'll move it to our team to take over. So thank you so much. And Mahmoud, can you hear me?
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Welcome to our first 2023 Startup Ecosystem Summit. We're very pleased to have you all here, especially over 10 government agencies and ecosystem representatives from North America, South America, Eastern Europe, Africa, and Central Asia. Excited to share with you why you should consider their ecosystem for relocation, investment, and what is their ecosystem's unique incentives that might be a much, much better opportunity and a location than many other giant ecosystems around the world. I will quickly go over the presenters and the ecosystems that we'll be presenting. Let me quickly share a screen with you. So our first ecosystem that will be presenting the initiatives in their ecosystem, the incentives, will be Markham Municipality. Toronto-Markham area is ranked first in Canada, the top ecosystem in Canada, and they're ranked 10th in the world. Markham Municipality has all the great things that the great joint ecosystems has to offer, plus many unique incentives that are very specific for themselves. And the next ecosystem will be the Medellin. We have we have Mislat, the business development manager for Markham Municipality. Welcome, Mislat. It's great to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm just about to share my screen. Can you hear me okay, Mahmoud?
Yes, you can go ahead and share the screen.
Awesome. Great. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes, maybe you would like to, yeah, perfect.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the introduction, Mahmoud, and Katrin for inviting us to be part of the StartupBlink ecosystem summit. Very excited to be here this morning to talk about Markham startup ecosystem. So as Mahmoud mentioned, my name is Mislat Balogun. I'm a senior business development officer with the city of Markham, and I'm representing the Department of Economic Growth, Culture, and Entrepreneurship. So to jump right into it, where is Markham, Canada? So this is a zoomed in map. Highlighted in yellow is Markham. We are directly above the city of Toronto, and essentially we're part of the Greater Toronto area. We have a very strong startup ecosystem, normally lumped in with Toronto. However, we're trying to put a face to Markham's ecosystem as well. So happy to talk about that today. So this map here really just shows that we're close to other major centers in the US as well as Canadian cities by air and also by road if that's your preferred mode of travel. So the population of Markham is 338,500. It's a really diverse community. So over 70% are visible minorities, and that's mainly represented by Chinese and South Asian backgrounds. We also have a very well-educated population. So over 70% have some sort of post-secondary education. That's a real strong play for a startup who's looking for talent. That said, we are also close to 7 universities and 8 colleges within a 1-hour drive. And I would like to point out that Markham's startup ecosystem is really powered by the private sector. So we are one of the few areas, I would say, that doesn't have an anchor research institution or university yet. We have such a burgeoning startup system, or ecosystem rather, where there's a lot of IP being developed. So That said, we are getting our own university. York University's second campus will be in Markham in 2024. They'll start out with 4,200 students, which will then grow to 10,000 eventually. Again, the benefit for a startup here is having a university where the programs will be catered to the jobs of tomorrow. So this is something that we're really proud of. That said, Markham is also home to Seneca College, and they've been here since 2005. We like to say that we are Canada's second largest tech hub, and we have the largest concentration of tech firms per 1,000 residents. And so this chart, what it's really looking at are Canadian tech hubs with a population greater than 250,000. So I'm happy to share these slides. I'll provide my email address at the end of the presentation. I'm just zooming through to be able to keep to the time that I was given. That said, so Markham's bloodline is really run by tech and innovation. So this slide really just shows the heavy hitters, but here are some of where our startups are being founded: former IBM employees, AMD employees, former Qualcomm employees starting their own enterprises. So in total, we have 1,500 tech companies that are creating over 35,000 jobs. And here are some of the industries that are strong in Markham. So life sciences, auto tech in terms of EVs and autonomous vehicles, semiconductors. So Markham actually has the largest concentration of semiconductor companies in Canada. Professional services is another strength, food and beverage, clean tech, as well as finance and insurance. So what this next slide is really pointing out is the amount of support that startups get while they are in Markham. So there are funding organizations, there are incubators and accelerators, there's support from the different levels of government, as well as I mentioned earlier, the enterprise organization. We have an organization called Tech Connects that organize peer groups. So startups can join the CEO peer group to speak with other CEOs to understand various, or to try to solve various challenges that they're facing. So just wanted to talk about one of our accelerators, Venture Lab. And they are geared towards hardware technology and enterprise software companies. They're led by seasoned entrepreneurs and business leaders with decades of industry experience. One of the programs that I wanted to touch on today is their Hardware Catalyst initiative. They've actually just announced applications into their new cohort, and the Hardware Catalyst initiative is really Canada's first hardware and semiconductor focused program. So if you're a startup in that space, hardware or semiconductor R&D, you're able to use this prototype and testing lab that has equipment that costs $7 million. So where else will you find that advantage to be able to test some of the R&D that you're working on? Right here in Markham, it's at no cost to the company if they're accepted into the program, and they don't have to give up any equity into their company. So it's such a great advantage. Tech Undivided is another program that's run by Venture Lab. But I'll skip right to two incubators right here in Markham. The first is White Space, and they're focused on supporting growth-ready tech and food and beverage ventures. Ella is one of the programs. It's Ontario's first accelerator focused on supporting women-led product and service-based businesses. As I mentioned earlier, Markham is such a diverse community. So having the ability to support different diverse groups is something that startups will find here. So Whitespace also, for instance, works with Black entrepreneurs, which I think is a real benefit. Seneca Helix, as I mentioned, Seneca is a college here in Markham. Helix is their innovation and entrepreneurship incubator. They really welcome students and members of the community to develop their entrepreneurial mindset. I believe that's all I have time to speak about today. Hopefully we'll be able to join future summits, but I've left my email address here. I'm also on LinkedIn if you want to connect further. I'm happy to speak about any of these things with you. Thank you so much, and I really look forward to hearing other presentations this morning.
Thank you, Mislat. It's a pleasure to have you. Just on a comment on what you mentioned about how diverse the city is, I think Markham has over 65 cultures and languages, and it's the most diverse city with the highest high-tech concentration in the world. So we're looking at a very vibrant and a fast-growing ecosystem within a giant ecosystem. That's great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mahmoud.
Our next ecosystem is Medellin. They are the second best startup ecosystem in Colombia and 8th in South America. They are quite strong in fintech, e-commerce, and retail and education. And with us today, we have Ivan, the Executive Director of Ruta N. Hello, Ivan. Very welcome.
Hi, hello,
Ivan
good morning.
Good morning. Ivan will be presenting us the first city in the world that used cable cars for mass transportation and has a lot of different festivals, especially for flowers. So thank you so much for being with us. We would love to hear more about the ecosystem.
Thank you for having us today with you. I would like to present Medellin. And can you see the presentation right now?
Yes, Ivan, we do.
Okay, sorry. So here in Ruta N, we are the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship at the city of Medellin, and we like to call ourselves that we have the power to transform. And I would like to start with a reference about where you can find us. We are from Colombia. We are located in the northern tip of South America. We have a population in Colombia of 48 million people, and we are within the department of Antioquia. We are the capital of Antioquia. In Medellin, the greater area, the metropolitan area, has a population of 4.5 million inhabitants. But in 1991, Medellin was the most violent city in the world, with 381 homicides per 100,000 inhabitants. And we were able to go from there to being the city of the year in the city 2013. It was a prize that was awarded by the City Foundation. And then in 2016, Medellin was recognized as with a prize that is called the Nobel Prize of the Cities, and also started giving headlines in national and international newspapers as the Telegraph, as how it went from being a murder capital to a hipster holiday destination. And nowadays, last year, it was ranked amongst the 20 best cities in 2022, according to the Time Out magazine. But also last year, as we are going to discuss, we were designated by the country as the first innovation, as the city, so the entire city is the innovation, science, and technology district of Colombia. And what do you need to know about Medellin? As I already mentioned, we have 4.1 million population. We have a working force of 2.1 million. The cost of living, which is very attractive for international organizations that are willing to relocate to Colombia, is between $104,000 and $2,500. And one of the most amazing things about our city is our weather. The weather ranges from 47 Fahrenheit to 85 Fahrenheit, so it's a really nice weather all the year. And the cost of the office space, which is one of the things that we have to offer, it's around $12 per square meter. So the timeline for this transformation, this power to transform that we have in our city, is by being the industrial center of Colombia in the 1900s, then going through the industrial crisis that ended up in the drug-related violence. And in 2001, it started the social and economic transformation of the city. Ruta N was a consequence of that desire of the city to work towards becoming a tech hub in Latin America. And in 2022, we were designated as the District of Science, of Technology, and Innovation in Colombia. We already had a very specific area within the city that was called the Innovation District, that is composed of 48 institutions that are hospitals, universities, gardens, and different entities that are working for the innovation and the technology sector. And we tend to work with citizens, with entrepreneurs, with companies, with public entities, and also private entities, because we want to have a real impact in the way that people live here in the city. We have a soft landing program in which we provide the companies that are willing to move to Medellin to have business in Medellin with one of the most important things for startups that are IT-based, and it's talent and it's people. It's one of the main advantages that we offer to companies that are willing to relocate here to Colombia. And we also have a very good infrastructure, and we provide networking events so that you can make business easier here with us. Last year, Ruta N was recognized as the best ecosystem, open innovation ecosystem player public in Colombia. And we were able to create 4,561 new jobs. We attracted 61 new companies to the city. We launched 69 business challenges to the ecosystem. And we also supported 967 science, technology, and innovation-based startups. And Ruta N was also able to attract $6.8 million to the startup ecosystem that is within Ruta N. Here, we're not accounting the entire money that comes to Medellin, but only the one that was attracted through Ruta N. And finally, I would like to mention that we are the home and we are the host of the Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution in Colombia. It was the first center in the Spanish-speaking world. Right now, we also have, still is the only center in the Spanish-speaking world, but in Latin America, we are second after they opened one in Brazil. And the city is also promoting projects such as scholarships for students that are willing to study careers that are related with science, technology, and innovation. And one of the most important programs that we have right now is that during the previous years, we have been able to attract companies that are related to software development, website development, IT consulting, software edition, data processing, and some other activities, but most of them are related with software development. And some of the companies that have been coming to Medellin and to us are from all around the world, and we are really looking forward to have you here with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ivan. It's great to have you. It's quite interesting that even though the inflation is creating challenges, but Medellin is growing rapidly, creating jobs and attracting businesses, and I would say this is thanks to the community that there is and the support providing. So thank you so much for everything. Our next ecosystem will be Kingston, but just in case if you would like to get more information about Medellin and connect with City of Medellin, Ruta N, you can check their startup ecosystem portal on our website. The next ecosystem is Kingston. Those that are familiar with Kingston know that the city of Kingston is oldest city of Ontario, and they're nicknamed as Limestone City because many buildings are constructed using local limestone. And Kingston is known for its historic properties as reflected in their motto, where history and innovation thrive, but they are young and vibrant and growing rapidly, as we can see in their ranking. They're ranked 9th in Canada and 183rd in worldwide. We have Norman, Business Development Manager for Invest Kingston. Hello, Norman. Floor is yours.
Hello, thank you so much. Can you hear me and can you see my screen?
Yes.
Fantastic. So my name is Norman Musengimana, and I work with the Kingston Economic Development Corporation, a city that is...
Sorry, Norman.
Yeah.
Hi, Norman, Katrine here. So we see your slide, but we don't see it full screen. Maybe we can put it full screen for everyone to see it more clearly.
It's full screen.
We see like the notes.
It's the presenter's screen.
Oh, okay. 1 minute.
Two tabs and share one of them and use the other, I guess.
Yeah, let me see how I can fix this because I have two. How about now?
Yes, it's perfect now.
Okay, thank you so much. So as I was saying, my name is Norman Musengimana, and I work with the Kingston Economic Development Corporation. I've been working with this organization for the past almost 4 years now. And we are a city that is strategically located in southeastern Ontario, 3 hours from Toronto, 2 hours from Ottawa, 3 hours from Montreal, 7 hours to New York, Boston, and Washington, DC by road. So given that geographic location, we really have a competitive advantage that is a little bit different from what a city like Toronto will offer, Montreal, or Ottawa will offer to startup entrepreneurs. And our ecosystem has been growing rapidly because we have one of the best business schools in Canada in this city, one of the best universities in Canada in this city as well. We have the Canada Royal Military College, which has students, both military and non-military civilian students. And then we have another local college that is called St. Lawrence College that also trains like really quality talent. From a startup perspective, Kingston is one of the, when it comes to intellectual property development, creating patents and those type of intellectual property instruments, Kingston is one of the best in Canada because with Queen's University, we have a specific program that is tailored to commercialize all the unique inventions that are created from the university, but also they support our ecosystem. And so some of the startup entrepreneurs we have in the ecosystem will be coming even from abroad to help commercialize some of these technologies. Every year we have more than 60 patents issued to startups in this ecosystem. From an industry perspective, given the fact that we are a smaller city compared to the cities around us, we cannot try to do it all. We have developed an integrated economic development strategy that helps us to focus on what's really great for our ecosystem and what we have seen succeed, do really well in this ecosystem. So from that perspective, we are concentrating on clean technologies, we are concentrating on EV and battery technology, food processing, health innovation, material process innovation, research and development, and incubation and acceleration of some of these IP or intellectual property that is being developed from this ecosystem. So just to give you a highlight of what's happening in this ecosystem from a startup and private sector development perspective, this is a company called Lifecycle. It came to Kingston in 2016 as an idea, and our ecosystem helped them to develop their technology, commercialize it. Right now, they are launching in Portugal, in the US, headquartered in Kingston, and they have been able to list to the New York Stock Exchange at a valuation of $1.2 billion in about 5 years' time. So if you're in clean technology, I want you to know that we have all the tools you want to be able to succeed in this ecosystem. When we talk about electrical vehicle and battery technology, Umico is one of the largest companies in the world, is headquartered in Belgium. Just about 4 months ago, it decided to invest in Kingston, and they have invested about $1.5 billion in this industry. So they want their battery technology to be developed and to be commercialized from this ecosystem. Rulact is a food processing business that is located that came from Portugal and chose Kingston as its North American headquarters, just because of the way our ecosystem is set up and the kind of support they can get, the type of talent they can get from being based or located in this ecosystem. Tecta PDS is one of the health science technologies that probably about 2 months ago was acquired by a US-based company. Rantra is one of the leading learning management system on in healthcare system that was developed and invented here at Queen's University, and it's now selling to all the key health science universities around the world, including Queen's University. Under material processing, we have VGM Metalworks, everything you need to be as raw materials or finished products from a metal works perspective. These guys can be able to help you to either to manufacture it or to tailor it to customize to the kind of maybe products you're looking to produce or the kind of technology you're looking to apply. From a research and development perspective, we have Queen's University, we have Launch Lab, we have St. Lawrence College, and we have Innovation Hub at St. Lawrence College. All these institutions work with startups and companies in our ecosystem to help them to either commercialize the technology they have, or to help them get access to the talent they need, or get access to mentors or entrepreneurs in residence to be able to succeed as a business. Then we have sustainable manufacturing, where we have an example of Graphoid, an organization that has developed proprietary technology on how to commercialize at a scale graphene. And this has been in Kingston for probably more than 20 years, but they are always innovating, always leading that space. So what do we do as an organization? We help entrepreneurs, from those who are exploring entrepreneurship as a career option or as an option, to people who are looking or who have already decided to start. We attract foreign direct investment. That's how Umico came from Belgium, or Frulat came from Portugal to this ecosystem. We have existing support for existing businesses that are facing challenges. We have a very kind of robust, but also nimble or flexible ecosystem. We are able to interact with each one of our ecosystem partners very easily, and having that gives us the leverage to be able to provide the resources that are required to support our ecosystem and our companies. Then when it comes to access to capital, we have Southeastern Ontario Angel Network that is headquartered here in Kingston. There are tax incentives that companies that are developing new technologies or commercializing new technologies can access from a federal perspective at the federal level. We have pitch competitions that take place probably 3 times a year from our ecosystem perspective, but the Southeastern Angel Network holds pitch competition almost on a monthly basis. And then there are grants based on the technology, based on the company, based on the industry that you can get access to. When it comes to incubation and acceleration, we have the Queen's University has what we call Startup Runway, a program that helps early stage entrepreneurs to commercialize their technology. And then we have an on-campus incubation center, also called the Ninda Shpande Innovation Center. Then we have Launch Lab that helps to accelerate companies that are looking to scale. If you are new and you're looking for co-working space, we have these services available for you, either per hour, per day, per month, or long term. We have all options available. When it comes to local talent, Kingston has really an amazing talent when it comes to those specific industries like clean technology, health sciences, the ones that we have decided to go for as an ecosystem. We have amazing technology, amazing talent from these institutions. And there are some programs that are designed specifically to help companies access this talent from a financial incentive perspective. So the ecosystem is made up by a lot of institutions. These are some of the institutions we work with on a daily basis to try to help companies, to try to help startups, to try to help entrepreneurs to be successful at what they want to do. And when it comes to quality of life, Kingston has been ranked #1 on various occasions and in different areas of life. It's a city that doesn't face a lot of traffic. In 15 minutes, I can be at any part of the city that I want to be in, any time of the day. So it gives startup entrepreneurs the opportunity to be able to do what they are good at, to go and hustle and grind and get their startups to really work as they want to. You get more time because you are not wasting your time in traffic and all of this, all other these distractions that we usually disturb an entrepreneur. And then we have the Lake Ontario runs from here up to Toronto. So we have a really fantastic lake. We have the Frontenac Park right within 30 minutes of drive. So it's an area that when you want to really focus on working, you will do it. And when you want to focus on or to gain to re-energize yourself, you also get opportunities to do so. I can say all I want to say about the ecosystem, but I think it's great if we can hear from the people who do it.
That has basically all of this startups. Part of that is service providers, and part of that is companies that are also that then end up building out that ecosystem. We've got Montreal and Quebec on one side, we've got Ottawa to the north, we've got Toronto and the whole GTA on the other side. We have a low-cost center here that's proximal to all these large metropolitan areas. From university and access to talent, Queen's University is really strong. There was that expertise, there was that knowledge base, and there was that availability here all locally. So it was kind of a one-stop shop for us. We also had a tremendous amount of support from the city of Kingston as well, technology. So there's a number of organizations locally. The Green Center, they helped us out with a lot of the laboratory space, financial support and expertise, and then started working with Kingston Process Metallurgy. And so they really did the bench scale testing to really refine our flow sheet. We were able to go public, get into those capital markets that now allow us to expand. By 2026, we expect to be fully installed in North America, and by 2030, we expect to be fully installed here. But beyond that, the city of Kingston also has been very welcoming to the startups in the United States. That makes the reasons even stronger why you need to be in Kingston and grow your business in Kingston. It's an amazing place to be here.
Thank you so much. As ecosystem organizations or as people who support entrepreneurs, we can say a lot about our ecosystem, but I think it's always great to hear from entrepreneurs who have made the decision to come and set up here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Norman. It was a pleasure having you. It's quite interesting. There's so much to offer. That the best place to raise a family, to best place in Canada to live. I mean, a small city could offer, so much as Kingston could do. I mean, it's difficult to find small cities with so many opportunities nowadays, and especially in North America. But Kingston has proved that quite different. Thank you so much. The next ecosystem that will be presenting but before that, in case if you would like to connect with Norman and the Kingston Economic Development Agency, you can visit their startup ecosystem portal. You have to search for Kingston StartupBlink. You can get more insight on key stats of the ecosystem, comparative analysis of the ecosystem, and overall landscape in the ecosystem. Until we promote our next presenter, Uzbekistan is the Interim Somalia Response Innovation Lab Lead in Somalia. Could you please raise your hand, Uzbekistan, so we could promote you to panelist? Great. So Somalia is the 7th top ranking ecosystem in Eastern Africa and 98 worldwide. Somalia has the longest coastline in mainland Africa, very historic with over 5,000 years history. And what is most interesting about Somalia is that more than half the residents are self-employed. They are small-time business owners, entrepreneurs, farmers, which makes this ecosystem quite unique. Hello, staff. Welcome, and the floor is yours to present.
Thank you. Is my slide visible?
Yes.
Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. First of all, thanks so much to StartupBlink for giving us this wonderful opportunity to basically share about the startup ecosystem in Somalia. So, giving a brief introduction, I'm Utsav Kharel. I'm the Interim Somalia Response Innovation Lab lead, working from Kenya. So giving you, to start with the background, how it began was, it happened during the 2015 Nepal earthquake. At that time, all the agencies wanted to help people in Nepal and try to provide them with the immediate support. So at that time, being a humanitarian organization, World Vision wanted to rethink the way, well, the organization responds during the time of crisis. So it was more about thinking out of the box kind of moment. So like, as an ING, it considered three things, like how we can give better solutions, faster solutions, and cheaper solutions during the time of crisis. So it was a pilot moment. So that's where the Nepal Innovation Lab established. And after the successful pilot of Nepal Innovation Lab in 2015, some of the global founding members like Save the Children, World Vision, Civic, Oxfam, and the George Washington University came together and wanted to try this in other countries to basically increase the impact of humanitarian innovation. So in Somalia, we started back in 2018. So as a legal entity, it sits under Somali Response Program, where World Vision is the lead agency. So as you can see, we are not the incubator, but we are the platform for a collaboration between the different actors. So basically, we try to enable the ecosystems, try to bring together innovators, private sectors, and different traditional and non-traditional actors. Talking about Somalia, I just wanted to give you the context how things were 5 years back. The startup scene was very new. And the good thing was the country was recently connected to the fiber optic or the high-speed internet. And most of the economy is and still is largely dominated by the informal sector. So if you check these different kind of rankings, like the World Bank Ease of Doing Business ranking, then it was like 190th out of 190 countries. And virtually, like there was no such thing called global startup ranking back in 2017, but there were like so many hopes, because after the country suffering from decades-long civil wars and so many different kind of situations, because of the emerging technologies as well as the drive from the Somali diaspora, like things started to change around 2017, and people started to invest funds as well as return back to Somalia with all the amazing skills and human capacity they received. So we established back in 2018. So we have these four approaches. We do it in different part of the world as a response innovation lab. So the first thing we do, like as you can see here, like it's all about convening, matchmaking, support, and evidence. So this is something which is based on the methodology of design thinking. And by the way, we like to call it design thinking and doing as well. So in the convening part, we try to bring people together so that, you know, like all the traditional and non-traditional actors comes together. It can be the government, private sectors, academia, innovators. So it's basically all about empathizing and trying to define the problem and try to put things together. And the second bit is all about matchmaking, where we try to match the solution provider with someone who is trying to solve the problems. And this is more around the notion of define and ideate bits of design thinking. And the third bit is more around supporting. This is where when we match the existing solution with the problem holder, then we try to co-create together with them. So it's more about ideating, prototyping, and testing those solutions. And finally, it's all about, we do tons of research to make sure the ecosystems are sustained, as well as there are knowledges that are gained so that it can be replicated or scaled in other contexts as well. So as you can see, in 2018, we started to create a directory. So it is basically all about trying to get all the publicly available information about the different private sectors, different entities, and putting them together in a form of directory. With very limited information we had, like we also, from the security reason, we could just only publish the brief information, just some websites, and so on and so forth. After that, we also created the relationship mapping between the different actors. And then we submitted all these data to StartupBlink. And the great thing is, on the debut year, we came under top 100. You know, think about Somalia not being in the global startup map. And after all the mappings, after all the things that were happening, finally, Somalia is in the global ecosystem map as like within top 100. And that was really amazing. In 2022, we are 98th in the global positioning. But the most important thing is, if you look about Somalia, then there's so much hope. There are many youths trying to create a sustainable future by tapping all the emerging technologies and collaborating with different actors. So right now, Somalia has been really pushing, especially the young people and the different stakeholders are really pushing for software development, more around the data, software as a service model, and so many things. So one of the major innovation hub within Somalia is Mogadishu. At the same time, for example, one of them is iRise, which is based in Mogadishu. Similarly, in Garowe, we have got Hanakad, and then in Hargasa, we have got Harhub. So these are some of the things that is happening. These are the enabling community trying to connect different actors within the ecosystem and helping basically the innovators to scale, as well as solution seekers to get the right solutions. So these are some of the snapshot I want to show. For example, there was a Mogadishu Tech Summit, a global gold jam, which was really amazing. Then also Somali STEM Society. So it's more about working together with the young girls and trying to equip them with the STEM knowledge. And in 2022, 36 new startups were funded, and there were like many categories, from e-commerce to like pharmacy companies and the delivery companies as well. So in comparison to other startup ecosystem, you know, like the ticket item might not be that massive, but I think this is more about hope and for the sustainable future of the country, which is just trying to recover from the massive civil war, as well as different kind of challenges. So I'm just stopping here, and I welcome any questions or queries. So thanks so much for listening. Really appreciate your time and attention. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stav. It's a pleasure to have you. And some argue that the future of renewable energy is water, rivers, seas, and with the longest coastline in Africa, I'm sure that there are so many opportunities for those startups that want to focus on renewable energy to invest and relocate to Somalia. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of the day. In case if you would like to get more information on Somalia, you can visit Somalia Startup Ecosystem portal, type Somalia Startup Link. Our next ecosystem is Puerto Rico and San Juan. Puerto Rico is the most beautiful island you can find in America, I would assume. We have Brian, Innovation, Entrepreneurship, and Investment Specialist from Invest Puerto Rico, who will be presenting the startup ecosystem. San Juan is the 333rd top ecosystem globally, but second top in Caribbean. Thank you, Brian. Floor is yours.
Great. All right, I'll just share my screen here. Happy to be here to connect with everyone. I'll be going through quickly, just highlighting, there's a lot going on in Puerto Rico and a lot that people don't know. I believe you can see my screen now. And kind of our motto right now and over the last couple of years has been game changers, welcome home. Puerto Rico's quickly becoming a top area for innovation and collaboration. A lot of interesting and entrepreneurs and investors have been moving to the island. One for the community and ecosystem, which I'll hit on in a little bit, as well as because of interesting tax incentives that, in my opinion, and probably can be backed up by data, are the best in the United States and in some cases the world. I work with Invest Puerto Rico. I actually moved to Puerto Rico initially with a tech company as a tech entrepreneur, and after we sold that, I've been so in love with the ecosystem here that now I'm working in economic development to do that. So hopefully that's a testament to some of you of what we have going on. But Invest Puerto Rico is the official business and investment attraction organization for the island. So we're actually a nonprofit, but we are legally mandated and tasked with bringing new companies, new investment to the island of Puerto Rico and creating jobs. So if any of you are exploring to expand out of your current locations or move out of your current locations to a new one, we're actually the perfect people to talk to. And you can find a ton of information at our website, which I'll share at the end. But we help facilitate, connect with whatever players on the island that you need to, whether it's government, service providers, ecosystem players, you name it, and help you kind of map out the move. So I'll be hitting very briefly on these different value proposition areas, talk about the business climate, talent and education, location, our infrastructure, our landing pads and support organizations, taxes, and lifestyle. So just a high level, there's a little over 3 million people on the island of Puerto Rico. There's actually more Puerto Ricans in the United States mainland than there are in Puerto Rico. We are a U.S. jurisdiction. We're a territory, not a state, which actually puts us in a very unique situation to offer, as I mentioned before, the best tax benefits in the country, which I'll go over in a couple of slides. We are more populous than a number of the different states within the United States, but we are a very small island in the Caribbean. Bilingual, bicultural, a very good nexus bridge point between both North and South America. Our economy is very diverse, by far the most diverse within the Caribbean and even a lot of Latin America. You can see almost half of it's manufacturing. We have a history of decades of being one of the top biosciences manufacturers, whether it's pharmaceuticals or medical devices in the entire world. 95% of pacemakers in the world are actually made in Puerto Rico. So things like that, we're a powerhouse when it comes to that. And given that we have very strong logistics and access globally. So this just gives you an idea. And being an island as well, having a diversified economy makes us a lot more resilient, whether there's a natural disaster or COVID hits or anything. Having a diversified economy helps everyone stay afloat better than being overly dependent on tourism, for example. As I mentioned, we're a U.S. jurisdiction. In most areas, will function the same as a state, except for taxation reasons. So whether it's IP protection, patents, things like that, all same as the rest of the United States. But for taxes, we're treated as a foreign jurisdiction, and that allows for some very interesting things. But before I get into that, just highlighting, we have, as I mentioned, very strong infrastructure, 3 international airports. You can get across the island. We have connectivity throughout the island. We have 3 5G networks all across the island, LoRa, IoT, other types of connectivity. So there's a lot on that front. Major companies that you may have heard of have been based here for a while. Microsoft, for example, has been here since 1989. If you've ever used a Microsoft product, especially if you're in the Americas, it actually comes from Puerto Rico. We just helped Amazon Web Services set up their Caribbean global headquarters last year here on the island, among many others. Jumping into the benefits, because that is the incentives that we have, is one of the primary reasons that the ecosystem, startup ecosystem, has been jump-started over the last 10 years. In addition to the normal natural talent we have on the island, which I'll hit on, we have very interesting incentives. There's 420 pages of them. I won't go through all of them with you right now, but here's a highlight of just some. So for most industries, and there's incentives for renewable energy, creative industries like movie making or video games, exporting services, if you're exporting any type of service off the island, manufacturing, hospitality, and development. So there's a lot of different types of incentives, and the base corporate tax rate is 4%. Again, there's no federal income tax like in the States. So if you're thinking of moving or setting up an office, a satellite, or a headquarters in the United States, I actually suggest looking at Puerto Rico first, because you can still be part of the US. Anything made here is made in the USA. However, you don't have to pay federal income taxes either personally or as a company, which is very interesting. If you do research and development, which there's a lot that's happening and starting to happen even more on the island, you can get up to 50% of your research and development costs that occur on the island back in a tax credit. If you're a startup losing money and don't need a tax credit, we have an open market you can sell them on for 88 to 93 cents on the dollar. So you can actually be getting a lot of your expenditures back and putting that right back into your company. And for founders, and this is one of the reasons that I moved along with the ecosystem and community here, is from the time you become a bona fide resident, you don't have to pay under Act 60, the incentives code. You don't have to pay capital gains tax, dividend, interest, distributions. So let's say you build your company from being worth nothing to a unicorn and sell it, you actually wouldn't have to pay any tax on that gain. So that's also very compelling from a founder and an investor standpoint as well. However, none of this would be possible without the strong baseline of talent that we have. So we have over 80 universities on the island, which is crazy if you think about it for an island. But as you can see, the majority are actually in some sort of STEM field of engineering or scientific or biomedicine. And that's why we have so much manufacturing. We have very strong, as I mentioned, in biomedical, but also aerospace and advanced manufacturing. Those are other key areas of focus and strength that we have on the island. All of that supports what's been growing over the last 10 years and even accelerated more in the last 5, which is the growing entrepreneurial ecosystem. From the local universities and companies and startups starting to think more innovative, and entrepreneurship becoming more part of the culture when historically it wasn't, mixed with the infusion of people and innovators who have moved here, maybe for tax incentives or to connect with some of these other stronger, more established companies on the island. I recently counted, we have 42 incubators and accelerators or entrepreneurial programs, which is also crazy, but it's great because we have ones that are energy focused, that are food focused, that are prepping to raise capital focused. So there's getting to be a good amount of organizations, support all across the island. And a lot of these accelerators are open globally, so you don't have to be from Puerto Rico to participate. Some of them you do, but others are open globally, such as Parallel 18. We've been working a lot the last few years on landing pads, very R&D focused and innovation focused. These are just 3 of about a dozen, half a dozen that we're working on right now. A lot of them are in biomedical, for example, we call it the MSRC or Ocean Bio. But then we also have multiple groups, Hub 787, Engine 4, that are very connected with IoT, 3D printing, drones, robot gardens, like awesome things, makerspaces, connectivity, telecommunications. We have landing pads for all of those. And then blockchain as well. We have a lot of Web3 and blockchain, both on the investment as well as the development side happening, including accelerators that are specifically focused around Web3 and blockchain. I'm going to hit on one other thing while we're on here. You can visit our website. When it comes to funding, we've also launched a platform called Impeller, and I'll share the links and multiple links in the chat, so I don't expect you to remember everything. But we created a platform called Impeller. Any deal that's in Puerto Rico, as long as it meets a minimum level of quality, can list to raise capital. And we have about 1,000 registered investors right now, all interested in deploying capital into the island of Puerto Rico. Estimated about $1 billion worth of interest. They're just looking for the right types of projects. So whether it's a homegrown project or company expanding to Puerto Rico, those could also list and get exposure into the ecosystem. So to recap everything, and if I was to distill it down, Puerto Rico is a very unique jurisdiction. It's a nexus between the Americas. It's a very good place to have a headquarters or second headquarters, particularly for this half of the world, given that it's between North and South America, and has all the protections from the US when it comes to patents and judicial and things like that. But for tax reasons, not subject to the federal taxes in the same way. So it's kind of that unique sweet spot that doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. I'm happy to connect with any of you. I'll share my LinkedIn link in the chat as well to continue the conversation. And thanks for having me.
Thank you, Brian, for the mind-blowing presentation. It's so many great things to offer. Tax incentives, 80 universities, the 6th highest availability of scientists, and this is just amazing. It sounds like it's becoming the next Las Vegas of startups and innovation, but more educated people. Thank you so much.
Yeah, there's a lot. We just got to get more of it listed on StartupBlink to show that. But that's why we're here, right? So
thank you. It was great.
Thanks
Having you.
Thank you.
Our next item is in Central Asia. We're moving to Uzbekistan, although we are not supposed to pick favorites, but Uzbekistan is one of my most favorite countries. It takes you back to history as if you're walking a few hundred years back in time and enjoying the most beautiful infrastructure and everything. We have with us Abdulaziz Aka, hoş geldiniz.
Assalamu alaikum.
Abdulaziz is the marketing manager for the Ministry of Innovation Development of Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan is ranked 3rd in Central Asia. It's, I guess, the most populated or crowded country in Central Asia. Very strong in software and data, food tech, fintech, and also very, very beautiful in the metro stations in the cities and the history, the nature.
Yes.
There's so much to talk about. I'm going to let you take on, Abdulaziz.
Thank you very much for inviting me to this great event. We're wanting to share our potential, Uzbekistan's potential to worldwide. Mr. Mahmoud, can you share my presentation, please? I have some technical issues with my laptop, as I said before.
Sure. Can you see that? Can you see it?
Yeah, sure. So this year, our ministry transformed to Agency for Innovative Development of Uzbekistan. And I start with some brief information about Uzbekistan. So Uzbekistan is one of the crossroads, trade crossroads of Euro-Asia, and its economy is very rapidly growing and very stable. And one of the great, most important potential is our young generation, because approximately 60% of our population includes from 18 to 30 years old generation, and they are well educated, and it's good for workforce. And we have diverse of natural resources like natural gas, gold, oil, and etc. And our population is, as Mr. Mahmoud said, in the first in Central Asia, and more than 36 million of people according to last statistics. And actually, Uzbekistan's position is very important, because is very strategically important, both economically and politically. And next, please. So over the past few years, we faced some reforms initiated by the government, and from 2017 till 2021. And one of the key reforms is actually after the action strategy for development of Uzbekistan. And one of the key reforms, I can say that I can count the key reforms like currency liberalization. And after this, entrepreneurs in Uzbekistan are able to do their business in abroad freely, and some customs reforms, and we removed some artificial restrictions on foreign trade, and some price liberalization, tax reforms, and there are several tax incentives in Uzbekistan now. And public-private partnership is very important thing for entrepreneurs in Uzbekistan. And from the last year, we started some digitalization of several spheres of economy and public sector, as well as startup sector, of course, and state enterprise reforms was also included in this case. The next, please. Thank you. So Uzbekistan has in several rankings performance of Uzbekistan. First of all, I can say that for the last 5 years, we changed it. We moved up in several rankings. For example, global innovation ranking. We moved up to 5 places, and now Uzbekistan is on the 82nd globally, and for doing business also it's in good place, 69, and economic freedom. It was in 2016. It was placed in 166. But now it is in 180s, and according to agenda of sustainable development of Uzbekistan by 2030, Uzbekistan is planning to be at least on top of 50 in such kind of rankings. So next, please. Thank you. So about macroeconomic growth and stability, Uzbekistan's GDP growth rate was very stable till 2020, as every country faced some issues, some problems after COVID-19 crisis. And Uzbekistan was also one of them. But after in 2021, very rapidly rose Uzbekistan, and it was 7.4% in 2021. And after this year, we expected only 3.4%. But last year in 2022, Uzbekistan's GDP growth rate was 5.8%, and it's very good for Uzbekistan's economic growth. Next, please. About exporting and importing. So our main export products are especially raw materials like gold, metals, or some agri-foods, or some chemicals, and energy, as well as, and some kind of services. We also export to foreign countries, and the main export partners are especially China, Russia, and Turkey. With Uzbekistan, we have good trade partnership with them, and main imports is machinery products and chemicals, of course, and the main import partners also above mentioned countries: Russia, China, and of course our neighborhood country, Kazakhstan. Next, please. So I want to show our ministries, I mean the ex-ministries, the results of the our agencies which supported the startups during the period of 2019 and 2022. So in this period, we supported 175 startups, Series A startups, I mean, and we funded with totally more than $11 million, US dollars, and they created new jobs, and their production capacity was expected more than $12 million, and 40 startups out of them was successful, and they are continuing their successful startup companies, like they were exits, and unfortunately 8 of them were in the dead valley, and more than 100 startups are continuing their projects with us nowadays. So and we are implementing some international projects also, and for 2023, I mean this year, we planned to support 122 startups in Uzbekistan. I mean the local startups, with the total funding of $8 million in 1 year, and we want to create more than 1,000 jobs for with the help of these startups. And actually, the new thing for Uzbekistan is we are implementing the startup law this year, and it's very good. This includes all the regulations on startups, and we are wanting to support youth startups also with more than $5 million in this year, and we are launching some international accelerate programs for entrepreneurs also. Next, please. So startups by stage. So we had more than 1,000 pre-startups. I mean, there's some startup ideas or some young startup companies, and we supported more than 100, and they are continuing their operation nowadays, and we have nowadays we have is a fintech startup, and it's very good to support the social and economical side of the Uzbekistan's entrepreneurship sector. Next, please. So most of the startups are financed by the help of the Ministry of Innovative Development, I mean the Agency for Innovative Development of Uzbekistan, and except of this, most of startups can get funds from their own funding or some bank loans or venture capitalists also. And the Ministry of Innovative Development don't get back that foundation, and it's very helpful and it's very important for startups to develop their business goals and reach their business goals, and they can continue their business proceedings. How can I say, in very high trends. So next, please. Thank you. As I said before, most of the population in Uzbekistan are young people, so that's why, for example, is Tashkent, and more than 70% of the startup founders in Tashkent are youth people. I mean, their age under the 35, and highest level of education in for Uzbek startups are bachelor's and master's degree startups, and so that's why actually the young scholars and some students are organizing the startup companies in Uzbekistan, and it's also the good side of Uzbekistan. And next, please. Thank you. So most of talented we need, so startups are demanding most of technical specialists and some managers in product and marketing. So that's why in Uzbekistan, because Uzbekistan are giving much attention to ICT startups and agriculture and food tech. So that's why these kind of specialists are very highly demanded in Uzbekistan. Next. Which were supported by the ministry. They are from the field in the field of tourism, agriculture, healthcare, food tech, and other economical fields. So next. So main stakeholder of Uzbekistan's ecosystem is Agency for Innovative Development. And there are lots of government and non-governmental organizations, universities, and some venture capitals, funds to support the startup ecosystem. Actually, there are more than 200. Actually, most of them are local companies, which are stated in the Uzbekistan, and they support the local startups, and they give the venture capitals or some state grants with the help of the state budget. Next, please. So we held several events and networking projects, some incubator and accelerator programs, which was successful last year. First of them, our contest, which was held, which is organized by the Ministry of Innovative Development, and we support the startups with a fund up to $150,000 for each startup, and then we hold some incubator and accelerator programs with the help of the non-governmental organizations and companies. And we have venture capital company, UzVC, and this company also supports the startups, and IT Park, which is one of the most, how can I say, significant companies of the Uzbekistan startup ecosystem. Next. So government is supporting the startups with several opportunities. As I said, the state grants up to $150 and some tax benefits. I mean, the incentives for specific startups, for example, in the field of ICT. As you can see, the corporate and there is no corporate and unified corporate income tax and unified social payments for them, and there is no import customs except import customs for them, and personal income tax is only 7.5% for these startups. Actually, for ordinary entrepreneurs, the corporate income tax is 4 or 5%, and personal income tax is 12%. 12%, and unified social payments is also 12%. And there are a high range of import customs for this ordinary entrepreneurs. And for venture capitals, they can build some organizations with the help of the state funding, and we don't get back this funding while they support local startups. And for foreign entrepreneurs and investors, we can give some beneficial visas like IT visa or business visa, which is very open economically. And we have several free economic zones and use economic zones for specific startup projects. And the technoparks are absolutely free for most of them, for most of youth startups. Thank you very much. And we are trying to, how can I say, move up to top 50 in the StartupBlink ranking also. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm sure that's possible with time, because we've seen a massive migration of talent to Uzbekistan in the recent years, especially in hardware and IoT and software and data. So thank you so much again for being with us. Now, our next presenter comes from a country that brought tears of joy to millions of people around the world. It's Argentina, Buenos Aires, startup ecosystem from Argentina. We have Mariano, who will be presenting the startup ecosystem in Buenos Aires. Buenos Aires is ranked 3rd top startup ecosystem in South America and 37th globally. They have very powerful industries on e-commerce, retail, marketing, and sales. And they are not just the champions of football, but they also have the most bookstores per capita than any other city in the world. So you have a community of people who are entrepreneurs, great football players, and also breeders. And for more, I will leave the floor for you, Mariano.
Hi, Mahmoud. Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you very much for this kind introduction. We know you are a great Argentina's national team fan, so congratulations to you as well. First, would you share thank you very much. Well, first of all, hi everybody, greetings from Argentina. My name is Mariano Rebagliati and I work as a project manager at Buenos Aires City Government Startups Program. It is a pleasure to share these moments with you all. First of all, I would like to thank Mahmoud and all the StartupBlink's team for this incredible opportunity and the help they always provide us, and sure they have become a key partner for our government. So first, we would like to share some information about Argentina's entrepreneur profile. According to several rankings, our city is positioned among the best innovative hubs in Latin, and the services they provide really stand out for the quality and high value added, especially in high tech and software related fields. Another important fact is that the high percentage of our population is willing to start a new business, showing really a great entrepreneurial spirit. So next, please. I may say that definitely our ecosystem success is based on a huge net of high quality academic institutions. For instance, we count with more than 41 universities, more than 500,000 of students, of which 100,000 have chosen applied sciences as a career. So that's very a competitive advantage for the city. And in addition to that, Buenos Aires has been chosen as the best city in Latin America for foreign students. We really have a very good educated workforce, especially if we are dealing with, biotech, software engineering, finance. So, as I said before, that's a good competitive advantage. Also, we have a wide variety of research institutes, both private and public, and they provide the scientific backup for new discoveries, leading to business innovation. As we know, Argentina has a large historic tradition related to science. We have Argentinians have won more than 3 Nobel Prizes in sciences, so science is definitely another feature of our country and our city. Next, please. Well, relating the supporting entities, you need to know that we come with more than 50 or more than 60 currently startup incubators. Some of them deal with general businesses, others deal with special industries, but in general they are all high quality and they have produced many unicorns in the past. There are also more than 20 university entrepreneur centers. It's a trend here in Argentina that universities create those university centers to help their students to grow and create their own companies. We now have more than 50 co-working spaces and more than 5K people work there. It's also a big trend here. Next, please. Thank you. Regarding financing, I may tell you that Buenos Aires has a huge and deep venture capital ecosystem. There are many corporations doing this, and they finance all the life cycle of a startup, beginning with seed capital, then moving to venture capital, and finally with private equity institutions. There is something very important happening regarding corporate venture capital. Argentina, and especially Buenos Aires, is holding several multinational companies that choose our country to base their branches. For instance, Coca-Cola, Citibank, and other companies, top companies, and they are trying to implement some open innovation programs. In Buenos Aires City Government, we have an initiative related with this. We try to connect the necessities, the challenges of big companies with the capacities of our entrepreneurs. So, as you can see, there are many of them. Some of them succeed internationally, and they take our entrepreneurs to be financed, for instance, in the US, for instance, in Europe, with great success. Next, please. regarding the government support for startups, we have benefits at two levels. First, the national government incentives. The national government offers non-refundable contributions, especially designed for small companies, for entrepreneurs, especially those leading with innovation and creating solutions related with biohealth, IT, related with environmental change. So there's a great opportunity there. We also offer some tax benefits. There is a very important law here in Argentina. It's the software promotion law. It offers spectacular tax benefits for new companies dealing with software and other innovative industries. And there is also a very important program called the Competitiveness Support Program, the PAC. It offers not only financing, but technical support for new companies related with digital transformation, food quality, environment, and energetic efficiency, among others. There is also a trust fund for development of entrepreneurial capital. The national government co-invests money with the private sector, so to create a new soft credit lines to assist new companies that are trying to grow. Next, please. Thank you. We also in Buenos Aires City, we also have some special benefits for new companies. We offer funding, soft credit lines through the Buenos Aires City Bank. It's run by the government, and we are focusing on entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs, innovation-related companies, investment projects, and COVID-affected businesses. We have also a very famous incubation program. It is called Incubate. I have been working for that program for many years. It's been 10 years around. We incubate more than 90 projects a year, and well, it's a great chance for new entrepreneurs that try to set up, to get some mentoring, to get some consultancy services, and we try to vinculate them with other public and private institutions. There are also some special development laws. One of them promotes zero local taxes for new businesses. There's another law promoting the building of university residencies for students, especially for foreign students that want to settle in Buenos Aires, and some special acts promoting some specific industries such as design, audiovisual, and sports. We also offer some special training programs for entrepreneurs, such as Academia BA, in English is Academy BA. We run workshops, we run special training sessions in legal and fiscal issues, accounting, business plans, design thinking, all the knowledge that an entrepreneur needs to succeed. It is important that at this moment, the city is building an IT park, an IT and technology park that will try to host innovative companies by being a real hub for technology. It's a huge investment we're performing, and we expect to be in the top of innovation parks between 3 to 5 years time. In addition to that, there are many congresses organized by the government trying to connect our city by welcoming foreign investors and academics to get to know us and to show them how much we can help them to build their companies. Next, please. Well, thank you very much for your time. Thanks, StartupBlink team, once again for joining us. And if you want to contact me or you have any question, please feel free to do so. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you, Mariano, for taking your time and presenting Buenos Aires's unique startup ecosystem in our summit. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of. Now, our next startup ecosystem is it's a country in East Europe. It has the oldest lake in Europe and 3 official World Heritage Sites under UNESCO, and 4 others are the organization's tentative list. The country is mountainous landscape, beautiful beaches. It's nowhere else but Albania. Albania is ranked regionally in Eastern Europe, 20th top startup ecosystem, and globally 75th. They are very powerful in software and data, e-commerce, retail, and fintech. We have Aryan and Suada, Head of Development and GIC Department, Tirana Municipality. Suada, could you raise your hand? Perfect. Welcome, Suada. Hello. You're on mute.
Okay, sorry again. I'm sorry. Hi, everyone. My name is Suada. I'm juniorly attached to City Hall of Tirana. First of all, I want to say thank you for inviting me and to be here with you all. And second, I want to say sorry because my general director couldn't be here to represent it as it should be because of his duties. So I want to say sorry, I haven't presented a PowerPoint presentation, but I do have to say something in general about Albania. So first of all, the vision of the City Hall of Tirana is to become an integrated actor in the European economic and infrastructure system, to be a competitive intermodal node in the Balkans that aims at equality in access, infrastructure, economy, and knowledge. Tirana is a city that has already transformed into a technological innovation and entrepreneur's laboratory. Nutrition is the new energetic spirit through public and non-public programs. The City Hall of Tirana is constantly evolving to bring various support programs, funding, and expertise to startups and entrepreneurial community. Successive events, projects, various campaign opportunities are all brought together with a mission to support youth, talent, and to inspire all across Albania. Some of the City Hall in Tirana that are open government reforms are the Tirana Pyramid Revitalization. Project aims to transform into a city hall center in the city, providing space for young people and for the people to engage in art, culture, and creative technology. The plan aims to create a new symbol for Tirana, where the building is accessible from all sides. So we are creating one space that is called Tumo, is a type of educational experience at the intersection of technology and design. The second one that I would like to introduce to all of us is the GIS Tirana PICAL, PIC-AL, so where we can find all the areas that are located with free Wi-Fi, so all the youth and all the people can access to internet, so they can not to have problem locating everywhere they want to go. After that, we can say about the Porto, which is very important to us, is open data Tirana PICAL, which one helps the city to determine what are the priorities of the city to help policymakers in decision-making and researching in conducting various analyses. Also, one of the platform that is very successful is Digital Tirana, which is an online platform that brings together a range of private and private and public sector elements to support startup, entrepreneurs, ecosystem actors, as well as provide comprehensive information on digital nomads. One application, which one is a mobile application, is called Tirana, which one it can be used by everyone who has access to the internet, so they can have information about the traffic, about the lights, about the humidity, and about the smog. Also, one of the platforms that we really use here in Albania is Tirana XXL, which one it can have all the night events, arts, culture, so we can go and have fun whenever we need to go. One of the most important future implementation is in Tirana services. So everyone here in Albania or in Tirana particularly can apply online in City Hall platform. So they can have a mobile app on their hands, so they can choose whenever service they need to do, so they can continue doing by not coming by themselves, but they can do it by online. It's enough to have only a smartphone. And the last one that I'd like to mention is the farmer register. In Tirana, we are creating a platform that is divided in parcels. So every farmer can dictate which part of his owning can have to have apples, oranges, or whatever. So we can create a pattern where everyone can see what this farmer needs. So this area of the Tirana needs about apples, or the other one is about something else. So we are all over to become together with the farmer, with the people in Tirana, so we all can create a pattern in digital and in supporting all the families. Well, this is a short presentation, I'm sorry, but it's all I couldn't do in the last minutes of notice. Hello? I'm sorry, really.
No worries. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Have a wonderful rest of the day.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Our next startup ecosystem is Porto Alegre. It's the 5th top ranking startup ecosystem in Brazil and 240th worldwide. Porto Alegre is growing rapidly, very fast in terms of innovation, entrepreneurship, and they are becoming a hub in Brazil. They are overperforming in fintech, marketing, sales, marketing and sales and education. We have with us Professor Luis. Could you raise your hand? Okay. Catherine, could you? Okay, perfect. Could you promote? Okay. Professor Luis? Can you hear us?
It's me, Mahmoud. Great to be with you. Yes, I'm just using my...
It's a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for being with us and presenting your unique startup ecosystem. Floor is yours.
Wonderful. Thank you. I'll just share my screen here. I'll try.
I think we had some technical issues. We will move on to our next presenter, and after that, if Professor Luis is connected, then we will have his presentation next. So the next startup ecosystem is in North America. It's, oh, sorry, we're back.
I'm sorry, I think we have just lost the signal for a moment here. Do you hear me, Mahmoud?
Yes, we can hear you well.
So I'll just share my screen again. Sorry. So I'll try to give you a glimpse of Porto Alegre. We have 27 states in Brazil, more than 5,000 cities. Porto Alegre is the southernmost capital of Brazil, closest to Buenos Aires. I was just hearing our friends from Buenos Aires presenting. It's a lovely city. And Porto Alegre is very well located to be the launchpad to all this region, Uruguay, Argentina, Paraguay. In fact, we are very close to them than we are to the national government in Brasilia. It's a vibrant innovation ecosystem, like you were saying, Mahmoud. It's the one that have most grown over the last 3 years. And it's an increasingly innovative city that has put innovation into the main axis of policy and strategy in a way that is really presenting itself as a wonderful setting for the emergence of new business. Porto Alegre has very strong natural forces.
Apologies again, we lost him due to technical or internet issues. If he's not connected back again in a minute or so, we can move on to our next presenter. Yeah,
I think as with internet here, Mahmoud. But I was saying that Porto Alegre has a very strong academic background. We are the top-ranked city in terms of these last years. We have been able to advance a lot because of a new strategy of the city that was based on the creation of innovation impact that involves the whole quadruple helix of the city system. We have the first unicorn in Brazil, GetNet, and very strong scale-up, and a tradition of very important entrepreneurial leaders that created international business like Gerdau, Marco Polo, Randon, and Tramontina. We have more than 24 higher education institutions in Brazil that are very strong in engineering, IT, health sciences. We have more than 5,000 students that are being graduated on these courses every year. The best federal university is located in Porto Alegre, as well as the 2 of the top 5 private universities. The strengths are health, construction, food, gastro, and agrotech, TICs and telecom, and creative economy. And we were looking into some innovation drivers into design, tourism, urban mobility, clean techs, and GovTechs. since 2019, there is the Innovation Pact of Porto Alegre, this quadruple helix movement created together with the mentorship of Professor José Piqué from Barcelona, the current president of the Triple Helix Association, has started a new chapter in the history of the city, where the main forces have aligned themselves and produced very strong and quick changes in terms of the business environment that we have in the city. Some of the main projects, we have 42 projects that are being impulsed by the
We lost Professor Luis again. Apologies for that. And he's back again. Professor Luis, maybe you could turn off your video, and that could improve the quality.
Yeah, I'm trying to do that. I'm sorry. Let's try for the last time. Otherwise, I'll just send you the presentation and we can share with the participants. I'm sorry. In fact, I'm not in Porto Alegre. That's why the signal is not so good now at this moment. So I was saying that Campus Caldeira, Instituto Caldeira, is a major hub now that has had an impact on the whole of Latin America. In fact, we are receiving a lot of missions to understand Caldeira and bring the same kind of energy. We just received the mayor of Campinas that came with a whole delegation to understand a little bit how we could connect the old GDP and the new GDP. We have more than 120 hosted institutions from the Economic Development Secretariat, from the City Council, to the art biennial that we have, and a lot of new startups and squads of innovation from the most important business that we have in the city. More than 2,000 co-workers on this old fabric complex that has been reshaped as Instituto Caldeira. With the energy of Pacto Alegre, we were able to set very strategic projects, like creating a new city branding that was created with the collaborative work of more than 45 design houses in Porto Alegre, totally voluntarily, and it has been given as a gift to the city. And nowadays it's become a law to use the new mark of Porto Alegre, the I Love New York of Porto Alegre, that is these horizons that kind of represent the sunset and the arches and a lot of things that are connected with the Porto Alegre local culture. Aligned with Pacto Alegre, and I won't be able to talk about all the projects. We have more than 42 projects from Pacto Alegre that are changing the city: creative economy, innovative territories, inclusive innovation. But the city council has decided to enact some legislation that really changed the economic landscape. We have now a whole set of fiscal incentives for innovation, like zero property tax in some of the innovation neighborhoods, a reduction of more than 60% on service tax for innovation, creative economy, technology. We have the economic freedom law that changes the way that the public government may license and fiscalize businesses. We have a special microcredit project for small and medium enterprises. We have a women entrepreneurship program, and we will have a whole inclusive innovation program that it's to extend the opportunities of entrepreneurship innovation for the whole city. And we will have the first smarter POA policy being enacted upon in 2023 in Porto Alegre. That's because we have placed ourselves as the top-ranked city in Brazil to use the new legal framework, the national framework about innovation, that enables us to take off on a sandbox way a lot of the legislation and enable real procurement of innovative solutions from part of the city. We have we have more than 30 proof of concepts in development with a lot of technologies, like you see here on the left. And companies from the whole of Brazil, like you see in this map on the right, are coming to Porto Alegre to test their new solutions in here, validate them, be certified, and in some cases start with the contracts to provide the solution for the public government. Because of this new moment, since 2019, Porto Alegre has raised in a lot of ranks. It's the first on 5G friendlies. That's why I'm not in Porto Alegre. I'm at the beach closer to Porto Alegre, but the internet signal in Porto Alegre is quite good. It's the best place to do business in the rank of the Ministry of Competitiveness of Brazil. It's the 5th national rank city in the Global Startup Index, and has performed quite well and improved in a lot of other ranks, including the number of startups and the entrepreneurial cities ranking from the National School of Administration in Brazil. We are trying to improve the digital platform of the city. There are key projects that are being taken to put the city in the hand of the citizen, which the financing from International Development Bank. The first strategic plan of information technology has been put in place last year, and we have a lot of services that will make Porto Alegre the main digital city in Brazil. We have connected the local ecosystem, innovation ecosystem. We have 4 very important technology parks. Some of them are the most top ranked in Brazil, like Tecnocinos, Tecnopuc, and Zenity. We have a lot of accelerators, investment networks, incubators, innovation hubs, and other innovation players that are every month putting their heads together to create new measures to improve the business environments in the city. That's why Porto Alegre was chosen to be the place for the Latin America edition of South Summit, one of the top innovation events in Europe, that was born in Brazil, in Madrid, and it had a very strong effect in Brazil. In fact, more than 70 VC funds, international VC funds, with some billion of dollars in investment opportunities have been in Porto Alegre, will be now here in March. More than 450 angel investors, more than 1,000 participants from 50 countries. In fact, the event performed quite well, much better than we were expecting. We had an amazing number of business connections, and some of the startups that have won the prize of the startup competition have become the best value in Brazil and are receiving a lot of investment. Porto Alegre has placed itself as a player in and a partner to larger innovation networks, and we are building together with Caxias do Sul, Joinville, Florianópolis, and Curitiba. Joinville, Florianópolis, and Curitiba are some of the best ranked cities in terms of all the indicators of innovation in Brazil. We are together to create the Tech Road. That's an amazing innovation meta cluster in the south of Brazil that has more than 5 million people, more than 20,000 high technology business, more than 3,000 startups, 40 scientific and technological parks, and more than 100 higher education institutions. We have been together at Web Summit. We'll be on the London Tech Week as a whole, and we are looking into providing a lot of opportunities for soft landing in Brazil in these next years, where we aim to collaborate with the partners here in this event. And I would like to again acknowledge and thank StartupBlink to invite us here to exchange best practice, to define joint projects and initiatives, to maybe receive and create spaces to soft landing in Porto Alegre, especially on the fields of smarter cities, digital government, sustainable innovation, and strategic clusters of innovation development. and we will be getting to know a little bit better about Porto Alegre in Rio Grande do Sul. That's the state where Porto Alegre is the capital, because the first startup guide in Brazil will be done taking Rio Grande do Sul and Porto Alegre as their motive. So Porto Alegre is quite ready to be an active part of the global innovation ecosystems, and we hope to engage much more with StartupBlink and all the partners that are here today with us. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Professor Luis. It's very interesting to see 5 cities kind of collaborating to snatch the top-notch talent from Sao Paulo and other top ecosystems and become a unique hub, because we've seen that, you know, cities around the world, even in one country, they are always competing for talent and investment. And as Eli says, you know, startup ecosystem growth is a zero-sum game. One will lose and the other will gain. But I would say for me, it's the first time I see 5 cities that should be competing actually collaborating and working together. And 3,000 startups, that's just a massive number.
Better to have partners than competitors, you know?
Always. Perfect. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure to be here with you. Sorry for the delays and the problems with the internet.
Thank you. Our next startup ecosystem is Baltimore. Upsurge Baltimore will be presenting the startup ecosystem of Baltimore. We have with us Corey, the Chief Ecosystem and Relationship Officer at Upsurge Baltimore. Baltimore is ranked 34th in the United States and 92nd globally, and they are overperforming in energy, environment, fintech, marketing, and sales. The Baltimore Museum of Art, as everyone knows, is the world's largest collection of Matisse paintings in the world, and Baltimore was the site of the first regular railroad passenger service in the United States, beginning in the 1830s. It's great to have you with us, Corey. Floor is yours.
Mahmoud, thanks for having me. Let me know when you guys can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay, as Mahmoud said, I am Corey Bailey. I am the Chief Ecosystem and Relationship Officer for an organization here called Upsurge Baltimore. It's a pleasure to be with you and to hear about all of your other ecosystems. So to all the presenters that have come before me, thank you for sharing. It was a delight learning. What you need to know about Baltimore is that there is a renaissance happening here, a culture shift, if you will. And our tech ecosystem is at the center of that. We have phenomenal assets here. I'm going to talk about how uniquely positioned and located we are on the Eastern Seaboard in the United States. I'm going to talk about all of the different industries and expertises that we have here, some world-renowned institutions and universities. And as far as Upsurge Baltimore is concerned, a commitment to inclusion here in the United States. So a lot of people talked about proximity to other major tech hubs. Baltimore is positioned in the center of the Eastern Seaboard of the United States. It is a 30-minute, 45-minute train ride to DC, an hour-and-a-half drive to Philadelphia, 3-hour drive to New York, 1-hour flight to Boston, Charlotte, and less than 2 hours to Atlanta and Chicago. Our airport, Baltimore, Washington, Thurgood Marshall International Airport, to me is the best airport in the country. But if you can't find a direct flight from Baltimore to Denver, San Francisco, Chicago, Miami, which you will, you also have the airports located in Washington, DC, Philadelphia to utilize as well. We are a port city that makes the industries here widely varied, from commercial consumer goods all the way to energy and green and clean tech, as Mahmoud mentioned. We are on the I-95, Interstate 95 corridor, so easy accessibility in and out of the city. And the Amtrak line, as Mahmoud mentioned, one of the oldest and most developed in the country. And pretty soon we will have a high-speed train that can get to Washington, D.C. in a half an hour. Maryland is the fourth smallest state in the United States, but one of the top 5 wealthiest states in the country as well. The cost of living here, we've had entrepreneurs visit and move from ecosystems like New York, Boston, Atlanta, and to a man and woman, they all mention the affordability of Baltimore, the average home price being highly enticing, and the accessibility to office space and the density of talent and talent coming out of our universities being very advantageous for how they grow their businesses. I mentioned real estate assets. There are over $5 billion worth of real estate developments happening across the city at the moment. Developments in South Baltimore, like Baltimore Peninsula, right in the center of the city, the Penn Station renovation, which will be a connector and a hub for entrepreneurial activity, recreational and fun things for the family to do. We've got the Baltimore Ravens, we've got the Baltimore Orioles. There's a massive project at CFG Bank Arena for hosting national tournaments. And the Baltimore Convention Center is next on that development radar. As far as industry expertise, Mahmoud mentioned fintech, energy, sort of clean and green tech being some of our strengths. Johns Hopkins University has for the last 20 years been the top revenue or dollar receiver for research in the country, over $2 billion a year. So we have life sciences, biotech, health tech are another leading industry. Our proximity to the federal government and all of the federal sort of institutions give us a strong hold in cybersecurity. We have a legacy of ad tech. Mahmoud mentioned marketing, but ad tech, ed tech. And because of our proximity on the Eastern Shore and the Chesapeake Bay, a lot of advancing ad tech, clean and green tech as well. I mentioned world-class universities. Within Baltimore City alone, there are 12 institutes of higher learning, Johns Hopkins and University of Maryland's professional schools being most notable. There are 2 HBCUs, which are historically Black universities and colleges, so Morgan State and Coppin State. Morgan State recently announced they have secured property to develop the first medical school for an HBCU in the last 50 years. By measure, our tech ecosystem is growing year over year. There are now over 300 funded funded tech startups in Baltimore, many of which coming out of those universities that I mentioned. We are gaining share in VC funding as the country is sort of losing share. Year over year from 21 to 22, we were up 12% in the number of VC funding, while the US was down 36%. Startup Genome, which is an organization that sort of measures the health and acceleration of different startup ecosystems, uses the $5 million deal average size as an indicator for whether a startup ecosystem is advancing. And for the last 3 years, we have maintained a higher than $5 million average deal size and growing. How we compare to other post-industrial cities like Detroit, Columbus, Ohio, Pittsburgh, we are outpacing and outperforming those cities. We often like to tell people that Baltimore is the best kept secret in the tech world. And so we intend to change that very dramatically over the next few years as we have an advancing tech economy and phenomenal stories about our founders, our industries and our companies, our funders, our accelerators and universities to share. So what does that look like? So at Upsurge, we say that we're tapping Baltimore's rich assets and location to build more than just the next great tech city. We want to build the first equitech city. And for us, that means a top tier city where diverse entrepreneurs found transformative companies, where the tech workforce of the future is growing up in our neighborhoods, where prosperity is shared across every zip code in our city, and where technologies that are reshaping society are born. The founders that we look for are founders of any background that view diversity as a core value of how they build their teams, their leadership, how they develop and grow their companies. Any group that receives less than 5% of venture funding, we have intentional focus around increasing opportunities and access to different forms of capital for them, not just financial capital, but connected capital, network capital, cultural capital. We really want to be changing the conversation and the dynamic of who can grow a successful tech company in Baltimore, and any company that their tech is driving equity as well. So increasing access for populations, breaking down barriers, and in essence, reducing the high cost of poverty. We have a strong sort of base of companies that are already leading in some of these categories. I'll call out Fearless, which is a digital services company that primarily works within government. They are growing year over year. They have a diverse workforce and diverse set of leaders. And they're a proud story of how culture, community can intersect with a thriving and growing tech company. I'll also highlight Thrive Earlier Detection, which exited to Exact Sciences for $2.1 billion 2 years ago. And last year, Personal Genome Diagnostics, which exited for $500 million to LabCorp. We've partnered with Techstars to introduce the first Equitech accelerator, and that is an accelerator that is focused on those companies that I mentioned that are focused on equity. We had a successful cohort number 1 of the 12 companies that came through. 6 have relocated to Baltimore. They're growing and thriving here. They're generating revenue to the tune of over $2 million, and they have all collectively raised over $10 million in the year since they finished the program. Our second cohort actually started in January, and by all accounts, the 10 companies that have joined us, 5 actually from the DMV area, 5 from other parts of the country, are all doing well, and we look forward to their demo day in April. Other accelerators and incubators that operate in Baltimore, I've heard mention that there are 8 here somewhere, 40 in another ecosystem. We have over 60 accelerator and incubator partners in the greater Baltimore area, all focused on different industries, some connected to our universities, and some that are focused on different and diverse groups of founders. I'll highlight Conscious Venture Lab. They have a twice-a-year accelerator where they welcome about 30 companies, both virtually, sort of in a hybrid model here and virtually. They just signed a collaboration opportunity with Tec de Monterrey in Mexico City to introduce some of their programming and their process there to try to create that pipeline of entrepreneurship between Mexico City and Baltimore. We've got some leading industries here. So at Upsurge, we are focused on convening, collaborating, and mobilizing our community around this Equitech vision. Johns Hopkins University, I mentioned earlier, but I'll also mention Brown Advisory and Greenspring Associates, some of our strongest financial partners that are helping lead innovation and entrepreneurship, both with their funding, time, and talent. T. Rowe Price, which is located here, Stanley Black & Decker has their largest set of employees and customer base here, and Under Armour, a great consumer brand that was born out of Baltimore and that is growing within Baltimore. So for us, it's not just about startups. While we believe that founders are and startups are the epicenter of economic growth for our city, we also want to make sure that there are pathways for tech, into tech for more Baltimoreans. And we want to have some strategies around how communities can grow from within and prosper in place as they do. Any startup ecosystem sort of focuses on these first 3 categories, so founders and companies and how to support them, how to increase the amount of capital, growing both locally and entering into the ecosystem, and how to attract, retain, and build talent. We are very intentionally focused, like I said, on those pathways. We are partnering with a lot of organizations that do workforce development, tech training, and we're also very interested in collaborating with local and state government on some pretty aggressive initiatives to get people trained for the 21st century economy. As I mentioned, Baltimore is sort of the best kept secret in tech and in entrepreneurship on the East Coast. So a huge focus of ours will be around marketing and storytelling. How do we increase the access of what people know within the city out both regionally, nationally, and internationally? Time and time again, when people visit Baltimore and experience the Inner Harbor, experience the Baltimore Museum of Art, which I'm right down the street from now, the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra, the National Aquarium, and many of the other assets that we have in the city, people are more than pleasantly surprised by their experience here. And then finally, what is core to us is connection and collaboration. There's a true spirit of collaboration happening in Baltimore right now between our arts community, our nonprofit sector, government, and of course the private sector and universities. So we're capitalizing on that by bringing people together in unique ways and matching putting the right people in the right places at the right times. One of those is a weekly tech meetup that we sponsor called Equitech Tuesdays, which has been happening continuously for the last almost 2 years now. So the positives for Baltimore keep growing. We have significant development projects across the city. We have a thriving creative class, a growing tech economy, a city that's affordable, easy to get to and get out of, a new governor who is in the city's corner. If you haven't heard the story of Wes Moore, look into it. He is only the 3rd Black governor in our country's history and Maryland's 1st Black governor. And there, like I said, that desire for collaboration is there. And ultimately, our people is what differentiates us in Baltimore. We have some of the most intelligent, smartest, cultured, creative thinkers in the world here in Baltimore. And so the biggest asset that we have is our people. So the end for us is to build a growing and thriving city and a new model for the world with this Equitech vision. I invite you to follow us on some of our social platforms, stay connected to what we're doing. If you're ever in the city, please let me know so I can welcome you with open arms. And I would love to connect with everyone. This is my email, but you can find me on LinkedIn as well. And it's been a pleasure to learn about your ecosystems, and hopefully we can stay in touch. Thanks, Mahmoud.
Thank you so much, Corey. Just to add a comment on what you mentioned regarding having most talented people on earth. In the stats, I noticed that Baltimore has over 30% of employment in Baltimore are on education and health services. Mm. This is just amazing that 30% of the workforce are educating people and providing them health services. And we've seen a massive drop in crime stats and the city becoming more and more, growing more and more towards tech and creating a safe area for many entrepreneurs around the world to relocate and invest. Thank you so much. Really great to have you. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah, take care. Our next startup ecosystem is, although I know that we are not allowed to take or pick favorites, but I'm gonna go ahead and pick my favorite startup ecosystem on earth, which is Denver. The reason for that is because I've lived in Denver. I love Denver, and that's why I'm gonna go ahead and pick that. So we have Stephanie. Hello, Stephanie. Welcome and thank you for your time. I'm gonna give a quick intro on Denver's startup ecosystem, and then I would also love to give a presentation about how great Denver is and Colorado is, but I will leave that for you. And just quickly say that Denver is ranked 15th in North America, and this is very, very great. Globally, they're ranked 34th, and their overperforming industries are health, software and data, energy and environment, and maybe more, which Stephanie will share with you. Thank you so much. Floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Mahmoud, and to StartupBlink and to all the other panelists. It's been really interesting to learn about all of your ecosystems, and I've been taking notes and taking photos of some of the slides. I am just going to see here if I can figure out how to share my screen. Oh, I see. Okay. Let me just see here. Here we go. Okay. And sorry, I'm just trying to figure out how to not, kind of a weird format. Okay, let's do this instead. Okay, just start at the beginning here. So here is a photo of Denver. We sit at the base of the Rocky Mountains. Colorado, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, we are in the center of the US. So Denver's almost the geographic center of the United States. Colorado has a lot of land. As a state, we're about 5.5 million people. Denver's about 750,000. We do sit at exactly 1 mile above sea level, so we're known as the Mile High City. We do, as Mahmoud mentioned, we do have a diverse industry base. These are the 9 that drive our metro economy. So we have a large aerospace sector, telecom, broadcasting, financial services, including fintech, healthcare and wellness, energy, both traditional and renewable, aviation, thanks to our airport that is currently the 3rd busiest airport in the world. We have a large IT software tech sector, beverage production. So a lot of that is the craft beer and even healthy beverages, and then the life science sector. Quick snapshot of some of the headquarters that are located in Denver. And this speaks to the diversity of our industry too, from cybersecurity, like the company Optiv, Leprino Foods, which is a food manufacturer, VF Corporation, which is outdoor recreation. They're a holding company for many common brands in the outdoor sector. We have Palantir, which is a tech company, Heart Hero, which is a life science company. So this just represents the diverse nature of some of the more well-known companies in our community. We do have a 4.4% corporate income tax, and this reflects what some of our competitive states or peer states come in at. A combined sales tax, 7.7%, a fairly low property tax, and then we rank 20 in terms of business affordability. So we do aim to keep our costs low when establishing a business, and that is one of our competitive advantages.
Sorry, Stephanie, but you can only see the first page or 3rd page, headquarters in Denver.
Oh gosh, okay, let's see here. Let me just do a stop share and then I will try to share again. And can you see the business advantage?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Okay. Can you see this next slide? Driving startup and BC ecosystems?
Yes.
Okay,
yes, yes.
Terrific. Thank you. Sorry about that. So we do, in addition to some of our more traditional industries that have been in existence for a long time, we are also a thriving startup hub. Colorado has a lot of venture capital deals, and also the city of Denver. And Colorado had 10 new unicorns in 2021. We do have a very vibrant startup week, which this depicts a picture. Every year in September, Denver hosts a free startup week program where we host about 250 events between a Monday through Friday. There's no expense for people to attend, and it's open to the community to be able to present and submit ideas that they would like to present to the wider audience. So that brings in a lot of entrepreneurs from around the world. And quality of life is another big selling point of our community. And we've heard that from many of the other presenters today. So we all live in very vibrant locations, and it really just comes down to what resonates most with a person, professionally, personally, to figure out what makes the most sense for them. Super outdoor oriented, 7 professional sports teams, craft breweries, a lot of arts and culture and music, national parks, ski resorts, mountain peaks to climb, hiking trails, great food and restaurants. This next slide hopefully is showing, but it depicts where Denver is located in the middle of the US and some of our rankings and destinations served out of our airport, which is another competitive advantage. And one of the great factors of our economy that make it very easy to travel into and out of for both our business community and just people traveling for leisure or other reasons. We have a great work ethic. People do value that work-life balance to be able to take advantage of all of the recreational amenities right in our backyard. So that's an important element of both government here and private sector, higher education, nonprofit. We all really appreciate that and try and build that into the ethos of our business and government culture. A lot of people do come to Colorado from other states. And this just reflects where a lot of the migrants from other US cities are coming from. And the bigger the circle, meaning the bigger the population of people coming from those areas into Denver. It's a fairly affordable cost of living compared to other US states. And so this reflects where Colorado sits among the other states in the United States. We do have a talented workforce thanks to both our higher educational system comprising community colleges, four-year universities, both private and public, and then a lot of other additional certificate types of training programs. For example, coding schools, incubators, accelerators, and just lots of other mentorship and apprenticeship opportunities. And a diverse talent pool with different skill sets and a great collaboration among the higher education or training facilities with the employment sector to really be able to determine what's needed, what skill sets, what training, so that future employees can go on to land jobs and our companies can be successful here. And we do business differently. Really, our collaborative nature is something that we hear over and over is such a big draw here. It's easy for incoming business people, whether international or domestic, to land, get plugged in, meet people, meet mentors, connect with other founders, executives who want to help set them up for success. And so we see that that's really popular with everybody. And our mayor and our city really does have a focus on equity. Our mayor established not too long ago an Office of Social Equity and Inclusion, and that is woven into all city agencies and the work that we do. And I was super excited and would love to learn more about Baltimore's Equitech program. So it might be nice to connect on that, but it is a big theme, I feel like, and really at the forefront of what many US cities and states are doing. And I'm not sure if it's so common in other countries. I haven't heard much about it, but it is something that our city is really focused on. Climate action, sustainability, and resiliency is something else that's woven into the fabric of how our government is structured and how we hope our businesses are structured as well. So lots of programs and initiatives to focus on climate action, sustainability, and building a resilient city and community for now and the future. And then I'll quickly I know we're short on time here, but I represent the global business development team for the city of Denver. Essentially, we're promoting Denver to foreign businesses, foreign government institutions looking to establish partnerships, collaborations, or for the businesses that want to set up in the US and helping them land and grow here. I'll skip that slide, but just mention two programs that might be of interest to this audience. One is that Denver hosts a global landing pad program 2 times per year, which is a business accelerator specifically for scaling international companies that are looking to grow in the US. And so we'll be hosting one in May of this year, specifically focused on European-based scaling companies. And then we'll have another edition in September that's open to companies from throughout the world. And we do tie both of these landing pad programs to a signature event happening in our community so that after going through the business accelerator program, companies can then go on to meet a lot of the community leaders in Denver. And we also plug them in as speakers at the signature events. So our May program will end in time for participants to attend World Trade Day and speak on a panel. And then our September program will coincide with Denver Startup Week. And similarly, when the accelerator program ends, Denver Startup Week begins, and we do feature all of our speakers on different panels throughout the week. We have another program. So because there have been so many presenters from the Western Hemisphere, from all of the Americas, Denver is hosting a cities summit for leaders throughout the Americas to convene and talk about challenges that all of our cities and communities are facing, and how can we as a geographic region work together to align forces and help each other address the needs that we're facing at a city and local level. So I put my email address on here. I'm happy to connect with any of you, but really appreciative for the opportunity, and look forward to learning more from all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie, for sharing the wonderful startup ecosystem of Denver. It was great to have you. And I guess we are done with the presenters. So I would like to thank everyone, especially the ecosystem partners, startups, rest of the ecosystem developers that have joined us on our third edition of StartupBlink quarterly ecosystem summit, the first one in 2023. Really hope that you enjoyed these sessions and learned about the best practices and incentives in startup ecosystem development. Just remember that we will share the video of the summit shortly in case you missed any sessions and would like to review any specific topic. You can find it on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to download our Global Startup Ecosystem Report if you haven't already for 2022, because in about 2 to 3 months, we will be launching our Global Startup Ecosystem Index Report 2023 with great and very interesting increase and decline on ecosystems across the world. So thanks again. I will copy and add the report on the chat so you can share or use it. And if you would like to connect with me to discuss how we can better rank your startup ecosystem, how we can better prepare the ecosystem, increase the accuracy of your ranking, you can reach out to me at mahmoud@startupblink.com. I've just added that one also. So thank you so much, everyone. It's been a wonderful summit, and hope to connect with you again in our Startup Ecosystem Index Report launch event. Thank you and goodbye.